We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters, the 3 Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. A new intro there, which Steve Hasty completely missed because he was looking at his phone. Yep. I saw Mitch looking very emotional at it, and George was just flabbergasted to see that his name at the end, Ward George, was on the flyer. So there we go, George. You're officially part of it.
Well, I've got to say, Steve, congratulations on a beautiful sequence of photographs. That was really nice.
There's some nice surprises for all the viewers because the fans forum, the Geordies here, Geordies there, have both had a little bit of a refresh, as has the intro to the rest of the shows. So keep an eye out. Some nice surprises coming up for you guys this week. Mitch, we're going to start with the video that was circulating with regards to the 3 options for the ground. Obviously, we still don't know exactly what the club's got planned. We know that they've been looking at potentially, expanding St James's, talk of, potentially building a new stadium. It's exciting times for Newcastle fans because, it's something to look forward to. And it means that those who can't get in at the moment, may have a chance of coming to see Newcastle in the near future. So that video which was circulating was very interesting. I think I liked option 3. I know there's quite a few people went for the same one. Says the same. I loved option 3 as well. The ground proposals look epic. Make it so. If only it was that easy. But yeah, what was your take on that, Mitch? We've all had a bit of time to digest that video.
I think it was a very interesting video. The timing of it is interesting. I'd like to know where it's come from and who's leaked it. Because I suspect if somebody's leaked that, then they're going to get their ass kicked. If that's part of the consultation. I know how keen the club are at the minute on NDAs about many different things, and that may go above and beyond. But the one thing I'd say on any ground expansion chat, and I don't want to speak for Steve here, but I think I can. We've seen it all. There's not an option we've not seen. Be that from other previous interested buyers, be they from Canada or elsewhere, be that from architect patients of mine who started drawing things on the back of a beer mat and a napkin in Goodfellas after doing some work with him and getting dragged into a football chat because that's what he likes to do. This is the guy who designed, amongst other things, the big wheel here in Dubai, the in Dubai, at Blue Waters. Man United fan, lovely guy, John Henry. He was the guy who had the one where you flip the pitch 90 degrees, for example. We've looked at God knows how many different solutions over time. For me, there's still one solution that stands out, which was Sir John Hall's original idea, which kind of, I think, option C is pretty close to when you look at that video. And I think that's why everybody likes the idea of option C. It gives us something within a reasonable footprint expansion without impinging too much on other areas. It lets me use St James's Park for the maximum amount of time possible. I still think it might end up with a situation where we have to agree to play the first month of the season away from home to allow finishing off before it would be open. But I think that's a small sacrifice compared to playing somewhere else for a period of time, because that's always the other problem, is what it would do while we're expanding, moving, changing things at St James's Park, with where we can play and how we can play and what kind of impact on capacity that is. I can see why option C is the one that everybody seems to be gravitating towards. Yes, Michael, the club are very good at leaking things when it suits. They're a very different beast now. It's not the sieve that it was under previous owners, including Mike Ashley, and before, where things came out whether they wanted it to or not. I think things come out now very strategically to get people chatting. And so, yeah, I find it fascinating. But for me, without sounding like a bit of a knob, it's nothing I've not seen before. Because we've discussed God knows how many different solutions over time. And it was always a very difficult thing to do, given the Leazes Terrace situation, given where we stand with councils and groups and no business from the moor. And I find it fascinating, by the way, that somebody who's involved with the Newcastle United fans against Saudi was also part of no business on the moor. But that's another matter, possibly.
I forgot that until you mentioned that.
And so, you know, I find it's quite a useful time to talk about that, perhaps. We've all certainly, again, without trying to speak for Steve, we've been here, we've done it, we've got the T-shirt and the matching hats, banners and marching band. We've bounced it around for years. What I'm heartened to see is that the direction seems to be towards maintaining Newcastle United in or within the boundaries of St James's Park and the city. Again, I've been out with Steve Bennett for a couple of hours, having a couple of post-work beers and chewing the fat, and we were talking about, you know, the previous ideas about what we did and didn't do, and explaining to his Mrs. Luda, who's from Ukraine, why keeping St James's Park where it is significant. And the thing I went to was straight away was how many pubs are within walking distance of St James's Park. And it's 131 if you're interested. And the next list in the Premier League is Wolves with 50. And that says it all. We are blessed to play within the heart of the city, and that ground acts as the heartbeat of the city, and it doesn't so many times. And when people want to know about what makes Newcastle United special to the city and the region and to the fans, it's that club, city, community synergy. And taking it anywhere from other than where it is, I think dilutes that a little bit. And so it's got to be, it's heartening to see that seems to be the desire from everybody, including the club. And then it's just a case of finding the solution, and there will be a solution. Because we've seen plenty of solutions, all of which are viable in one way, shape, form, or another. And it's finding out it's settling on the right one. And I'm pretty confident that we will.
Okay, those of you who are in the chat tonight, I did forget to mention at the start, it's subscribers only moving forward on this channel. So if you want to comment in the chat, you must subscribe. It's free. It costs you nothing. It's just sitting the subscribe button. But we do want to hit 52,000 this year. And I'm going to have to be a little bit meaner to get to where I want to get to, I think, on that. There's no final recompense for financial recompense for it. It's just we want to get to 52,000 and we don't ask much. You can subscribe to the channel. Please hit the subscribe button. It is free. And that does help us a great deal. And I have also put the auction in the chat. I pinned it at the top. Just quickly off the top of my head, Chris Waddle, Steve Howie, Kevin Keegan, Ozzy Ardiles, Alan Shearer, Super Mac, Nobby Solano, John Beresford, Kevin Nolan, Jamal Lascelles, Rob Lee, Steve Watson, Pavel Cernacek, Les Ferdinand, Kevin Keegan, Paul Dummett, Tino Aspria, and Mickey Quinn. All signed memorabilia up for grabs on that page, starting at £15, and it's got 2 more days to run. Get yourself on there. Get yourself a nice piece of Newcastle United memorabilia. Have a bid on that tonight. Steve, the stadium video, yeah, it's unofficial, but I think we all think that perhaps this has been, perhaps something pushed out there by somebody just to say what do people think. And I think the overriding opinion I've got from Newcastle fans I've spoken to, had messages off, has been option C looks fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I move on to that, Steve, you missed out Stephen Taylor, so I presume we're talking about him later with Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Taylor's such a great manager as well. I should have included him in the new professionals lineup in the opening credits because, of course, he's doing a job. But yeah, probably more of that to come. But yeah, go on, Mitch.
Yeah. I mean, option C for me, yes, definitely, because it's probably the simplest. I think that of all of them, it's the one that really probably excites the majority of Newcastle fans. It takes away a lot of issues. I think it's quite interesting. I'd like to see it. Somebody said it was a lad called Damien from Australia who did the video. Maybe I'll send a message to him and see if he can do an option D as well with one of the other little ideas that we had. Swing it another 30 degrees, have it backing on exactly onto the back of the Leazes stand. And then show us as well, perhaps what we can do with the existing ground and that redevelopment. That would look quite good as well. What we could always do is where the Leazes stands at the moment, and we could turn that stand into a hotel, and then we could sell it for £1 billion. That would be a bargain, wouldn't it? So yeah, I think option C for me, Steve, definitely. As Mitch said, we've talked about ground redevelopments. We've had this mooted on many occasions, and there's nothing we haven't heard, nothing we haven't seen, nothing that we haven't laughed at, nothing that we haven't screamed at, nothing that we haven't raised our eyebrows at and thought, what, underground, overground, God knows what. But yeah, and it's very interesting. Mitch mentioned there, what was it, 131 pubs. I think Mark Knopfler missed a trick there, didn't he? He could have been another track on his new album. He could have had I Would Walk 500 Pubs. And that would have probably summed up Tyneside when we're going to go to the match. We'll probably need another couple of pubs on the way up. If we're going to have the ground in Leazes, then we need another couple more pubs just to make it sweet, just to keep it going, both on the way up to the ground and on the way back down the hill. Might as well go for it, mightn't we?
George, what's your views? I saw Barry asked you a question before, saying you played at St James's. How important is it to keep it at St James's? I think you've answered that question on many occasions. But yeah, what was your thoughts on that video of the ground?
Well, it's slightly worrying because by releasing it early, you allow the enemies to marshal their forces and decide why we can't do that. However, I've already said on here and other platforms, when the last ground was last developed, there were so many enemies we couldn't overcome them. Like when we tried to get the World Cup in, whenever it was, we ended up with a big battle with the council and everybody else. But they were all cocky because they had money then. Well, guess what they haven't got today? There's none of them. Leazes Park, council, university is pink lint. I'm serious. I'll probably get me had my hands next time I see some people from the university for saying that publicly. But it's a fact. You don't have to look very far. They're all pink lint. And the one thing we're not short of is money. So if we want to do something, it's a blooming good time to do it. option C seems to be the sensible one to me as well. But the other thing is, there are options. I'm quite certain in the feasibility study, if they're looking at the problems with Leazes Terrace, for example, the use of new building materials that have come into force since the ground was even worked on last time, or make it such that you can get over daylight problems by large glass panels or perspex panels or plexiglass. That's the word I was looking for. Plexiglass panels to still let the sunlight go through onto the houses behind. So there's other things to develop, but option C looks sensible to me, and it's interesting. People asking me and others. I would suggest people go and have a look at what other people outside of St James's Park have to say about it. Ask the rugby league people why they want Magic Weekend at St James's Park every year. They don't want to go anywhere. They've tried to make them go all over. And bearing in mind, they could have gone to Manchester, where there's a big, a rugby league centre. Where they want to come? They want to come to St James's Park because they like the atmosphere. They like the way the ground's structured, how fan-friendly the ground is. Ask the coach of the New Zealand All Blacks, rugby league side when they came. And he describes coming over the Tyne Bridge and looking at the cathedral on the hill. Where did he get that from? It is the cathedral on the hill, and when he stood in the middle of the ground, apparently he was in absolute awe, just looking around and thinking, "Well, this is a real sports stadium." Now that's from somebody the other side of the bloody world. So if it hits those people like that, of course we want to keep it where it is. Of course we want to keep it where it is. It would be nonsense to try and do anything else. And have all the problems we'd have with planning elsewhere, developing all the parking and other issues elsewhere. The parking's not brilliant at the moment, but at least it gets sorted. It's not the end of the world. So with a combination of common sense, use of new materials, I think we're in for a super time in a new stadium. Whether I'll be able to afford to go to it, another matter. But it's just magic. And if that is leaked, then I suspect somebody's right that it may well be the club that's leaked it. But if it's not the club, Neil's right as well. As somebody's in trouble, and because, as I say, the one thing about doing it early is you allow your enemies to marshal their forces, as it were, to decide why you can't do it. And as to no business on the moor, well, yeah, same thing. Put your money where your mouth is, lads, because the one thing we're not short of is money. We'll give you a run for your money, all right. So, no, those sort of people wouldn't worry me like they did before, and certainly others in the calculations wouldn't worry us either. As I say, they're all short of cash. It's one thing we're not short of. But option C, yeah.
Yeah, Mark Byers, it'd be interesting to see if they did that. He says, for nostalgia reasons, I wonder if they keep the slope to the Gallowgate if a new stadium was built.
Well, I'd add another couple of degrees and make sure we kick the right way each time. Anybody that hasn't, it is a perceptible slope when you're playing, I can assure you. And I thought when we developed the last ground, when they took thousands of tons of coal from underneath the ground, and I thought when they were related, then they would get rid of the slope, but they didn't. They left it, and I find that fascinating. The other fascinating thing is people don't realise about the ground, the dimensions of the marked pitch at Newcastle United, St James's Park, are the identical dimensions to a pitch called Wembley.
Yeah.
That's not an accident either.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Lots of comments coming in about the stadium. We don't want to get stuck on that, though, all night. I'd rather it was back like this, lads. Remember those good old days? Yeah,
lovely. Fantastic.
What a great photo that is. I just seen that circulating this week. I thought I'd share it with you. It was £3.50 for adults, I think, and £2.50 for adults, only £1.50 for kids. That was when I started going. The good old days.
Horrendous if that police horse decided to relieve itself just as you were getting through the turnstile.
Yeah, if you remember, Steve, it was £1.50 for boys.
That's right, boys.
Changed, you know.
You're right, mate. Yeah, boys. That's right. Okay, as always, got a lot to get through, and time to play this wonderful music. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And I'll just take the banner off. There we go. I heard you talking about sending photos in. Here's one of me and me pals in 1969 holding the Fairs Cup. My mum was Joe Harvey's secretary, and he said it was okay for her to take the cup home to show us.
Fantastic.
That is
fantastic.
Brilliant.
I've got to say, I think that's the biggest celebrity, Gary Barber, we've had on this show.
Definitely.
Absolutely brilliant. Great stuff.
That's super.
It is, isn't it? What a great story as well. Typical Joe Harvey. Just take the cup home, Pet. Bring it back. Give it a polish. Thanks for that. If you've got a photo, we've got a little backlog now. I've got some great ones as well coming up over the next few weeks. Then send them in to our Facebook group or Facebook page, which you can either like or join, or send it to one of us on X, and we will endeavour to show it on the show. Now, whilst we're on about trophies and people taking them home, this is slightly different, but I got a message from Martin Bailey on Facebook, and he says, seeing your comment on the Northumbria Police Facebook page, Steve, now that doesn't sound as dodgy as you would think. Basically, they showed some photographs of the cells at Market Street, because now, of course, it's becoming a hotel and a bar and restaurant. The Rubens, of course, developing that particular building in our prestigious city, and there was lots of comments on there, some very funny, some very factual, and some great stories. And this was a message from Martin. He said, after seeing your post, Steve, he says, here's a good story for you. When Sunderland won the cup in '73, the cup spent the night in Newcastle. The Mackems got the train back into Central Station, and then the cup was given to Northumbria Police for safekeeping. And it spent the night in Pilgrim Street Police Station. Needless to say, my dad and all the other coppers who were on duty in Newcastle City Centre on that night just spent the night messing about with the FA Cup in the police station. So, Martin, brilliant. There's your dad's moment of glory.
Fantastic. Amazing.
If you drink the champagne that was left in it.
Oh, God, that's absolutely brilliant.
Did you have to go and record an episode of On the Buses after that?
Oh, God, he's got a bit of a look, hasn't he? He's got a bit of a look.
That reminds me of when we said about that previous photograph of going into the ground. If I remember rightly, and I do, you were, once you got to the ground, you were the boy. Before you got to the ground, you were in the pub, you were in the Three Bulls, and you were in the Farmers and the Percy and the Georgian Dragon, and you were a man then. You were over 18, and all of a sudden you became under 18 when you went to the ground.
Well, I can remember going to Gateshead when I was only 13 or 14, when my dad and we were looking for something to do on a Saturday to go and see Gateshead. And we ended up in a place called The Coffin. Steve might know where The Coffin is. It was called that because of its shape. Yeah. And, I was tucked away in a corner with a glass of pop when my dad downed a couple of pints before the match.
That was the Central, wasn't it?
Pardon?
The Central bar. Just off the bridge.
Yeah. The Coffin, yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. I did also have a comment. We do get comments on YouTube occasionally. And I meant to read this out a couple of weeks ago, but it was when we were talking about letters going to people in the Gallowgate, if you remember, lads, about persistent standing and stuff. And I meant to read this out a while back. Charlie, who commented on YouTube, put a bit of context in the persistent standing. It'll likely be the strawberry corner, and everyone in the section has already had 2 to 3 letters this season. There's a group of people who stand all game, forcing others to stand or blocking the view of people who can't stand or are too short to see when standing. No one complains about standing when the game gets excited or for the occasional chant. It's the constant standing that irritates people. It only started happening since around the takeover, and those fans who do stand had the opportunity to move into the standing section, but for whatever reason chose not to do so. The vast majority of people in the whole section are season ticket holders. The stewards and club have tried to resolve the issue less formally, but they continue to persistently stand. So this is the next step in the process. When they do sit down, when they take notice of the letters or stewards, it doesn't affect the atmosphere one bit. Not all of them sing anyway, but just stand there all game. So, Charlie, apologies. I did mean to read that out a couple of weeks back, and I'd saved it on my phone and it had gone into the wrong folder. But that's quite important, lads, because, you know, we were talking about the letters coming from the club, and we felt that was quite aggressive. But when you put a bit of meat on the bones, there's always two sides to the story, Mitch. And, you know, ultimately, if they have asked people to try and sit down and stuff, and they've not really cooperated, then the club don't really have they don't really have an option, do they? They've got to come out and do something like that. So thanks for sending that in.
They've got no other way to go. But this for me belies the whole safe standing concept and the way they've gone with it. For me, the only way they should have gone with safe standing was not 1-for-1.
Yeah.
It should have been a way to allow even a slight increase in capacity, to allow those who want to stand to be with their mates and give them more options about where they want to be and how they want to be together, and let that happen organically. But the only way that that's really possible, with the space that was given to it, was to go for a 2-for-1, or my preferred option has always been the 3-for-2. That has always been, to me, a more sensible way to raise capacity and keep a level of safety, and not overstress areas in terms of numbers, and not overstress areas in terms of access, and not overstress areas in terms of mechanics. When we've all, certainly us three, and I don't know how much my dad saw of it over his time, when we were looking at various different safe standing options over time, 1-for-1 just seemed an absolute nonsense to me, and just lip service, really. Oh, we've got some safe standing, great. But then it doesn't accommodate necessarily everybody who wants to. And then the next challenge is if you're going to introduce more, what do you say to the season ticket holders who are there already, who might not want to move, but might not also not want to stand? And that's where sort of more options in terms of numbers at 3-for-2, you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're never going to keep everybody happy. But like that post says, if the club have written to them on more than one occasion, if they've had words from stewards on more than one occasion, and I'm not talking shitty words from stewards, I'm talking constructive words from stewards, because there's two different types of ways stewards can handle things. And I think we do see both examples within St James's Park. One in particular recently, which has really boiled my piss, but that's definitely a discussion for another time. And you then, what else can the club do? They're backed into a corner, and if there's people affected by it, that's not right either. You shouldn't just have to shut up and put up and sit down and have your view affected by it if that's what you don't want to do. All of this shows a short-sightedness and a lack of understanding about the dynamics of the crowd and the dynamics of the fan base. And if they just sit down with people who had half a bloody clue every now and again, they might get more of these things right. And I hate to be critical of it, but I think it also behooves us as critical friends of the club to be able to say, right, you know what, you haven't quite got this one right. And I feel for people affected by it, because I also know some of those who persistently stand will be irritated by the club's attitude towards them too. And so we've got to find solutions that cross the gap and cross the divide and try and make win-win situations for everybody. It's very difficult. It ain't easy. Steve's nodding away because he and I have done this for bloody years. We know how difficult it is.
Yeah, Steve, it's just going to get a little bit more meat on the bones with that story, I guess, that we covered a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And putting it all into context, Steve, that's good. I'm glad that somebody sent that to you just to put their point out there, just to give that, as Mitch says, that little bit of meat on the bone, that little bit of pause for thought. We're all very, very keen sometimes to throw criticism in all sorts of directions, whether it's stewarding, policing, the football club, or fans. Now, there's an example where fellow supporters are making it uncomfortable for other supporters in the ground, and they don't have a right to do that. Certainly not. And Mitch is right. I mean, the system that we brought over and presented back in, it must have been 2011, 2012 with John Dark, who was based in Germany, who had worked extensively with the Bundesliga and with various fan groups over there to introduce safe standing. That was a 3-for-1 system. We saw it in operation. He brought the example over. We put it in the what we call the 9 bar, which was on Stowell Street, and we had the press there. We had huge interest from fans who all wanted to have a look and hear from John and read the info and then go back and give him feedback to the club. We had representatives from the club there as well. Every time we then approached the subject, obviously, of safe standing, we always got, well, the legislation won't allow us. We would, at the first instance that the legislation would allow us, then we would do. What the Premier League and what the clubs missed out on was the option and the opportunity, given the situation that we have now with stadium size, to increase capacities very, very simply, very cheaply and very easily by allowing the 3-to-1 system. And they didn't go for it. Or even a 2-to-1 system, but they didn't go for it. They literally went, well, you can have standing, but it's just where you are. We'll put a barrier in front of your seat. And if you want to, you can stand, because it's lip service, because it's just so that we, from a health and safety point of view, know that if you move, you're not going to topple over onto the person in front. And that's all it was. So I suppose in hindsight, and maybe's clubs where the demand for the Premier League games gets bigger and bigger, where clubs are struggling financially and don't want to have the risk. And if you want to talk about risk, look at the risk that Everton have taken in building their ground and looking at the mess that it's created. Perhaps they could have gone up from the 38,000 at Goodison up into 45 or 50 if they just made both ends safe standing and they'd allowed 3-to-1, and then they could have raised the revenue and looked at it. And I'm sure there are plenty of other clubs in the similar situation where they're hemmed in their current location, and it's very, very difficult to expand. Crystal Palace, for example, they would struggle to expand their ground. And they would also struggle to find another location in the area where they could build another ground. I know they're talking about building a new stand, but even some of the diehard Crystal Palace fans are saying, yeah, but as soon as it goes up, it's just be corporatized and it's not going to do us any benefit from our point of view as the normal day-to-day fan. It's going to very, very much be targeted at the corporate end. And I think they're also looking over the river at what Fulham have done and seen the prices that Fulham are charging for their new stands as well. So it's typical. It's the lack of consultation, but the lack of consultation goes right the way across football. The lack of consultation between the EPL and the EFL, the lack of consultation between the FA and the EFL and the Northern Leagues and the national leagues and so on. I mean, we could have an entire 24-hour show talking about that, But I mean, what fans in grounds have got to do is they've got to appreciate that there's cause and effect. There'll be a cause and an impact on what you do to other fans, and we're the first to turn around and say we should be policing our own, but we don't police our own. I witnessed it at Wembley last year when we were there for the Coca-Cola or whatever it's called, the Carabao Cup final, where some people insisted on standing, and yet there were youngsters behind them, but there was no way they were going to sit down, and people were talking to stewards and saying, look, it's on my ticket, it says you're not allowed to stand, what are you going to do about it? And of course the reaction they got was, not our job. We're here merely to make sure that you can get in and out. We're not interested in the actual physicalities of stewarding, and that's because the stewards that they employ are not really stewards. They're just basically youngsters who are there just to stand purely for a health and safety purpose, to make sure if there's an incident that people can get out of the ground, that the doors are open, and everybody does it in a sensible way. They're not proper stewards, and there have been instances where clubs don't even train them properly. But again, that's another saga. But we've got it. The guys in that area have got to appreciate the situation that they're putting themselves in as well, because let's face it, the final crunch will come when they get their tickets taken off them. That's what will happen, because we're saying that they'll box the club into a hole. And if they're still not abiding by it, then somebody will get it in the neck. Somebody will have their tickets removed, and then there'll be trouble. Then they'll be disheartening.
The club and supporter services have already shown that they're very prepared to do the ultimate things with loyalty points and with other things, and without, I'm going to sound uncouth, and not give a fuck about it, and say, there's the rules, that's what we've decided. Does that behoove them? No. Is that what we want? Absolutely not. Would rather have a dialogue and an ability to have a dialogue. But if people have been boxed in and they've only got one way to go, and they've only got one thing left, they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts, George?
Well, the lads covered it nicely, but the other things about it. Well, the first question I'd like is, what the hell happened to the Gallowgate corner? Where did that go? Is that the strawberry corner now? Anyway, that's another issue.
Yeah, it got changed. I mean, it got changed. I don't know who changed it, but it's almost been like subliminal messaging, hasn't it? It's because of what's happened out. It's because of what's happened outside, and it's been reinvented.
Yeah. All right.
Ironically, when it was the Gallowgate corner, you could see the strawberry.
No, seriously, 1-for-1 standing is a waste of time, waste of money as well, in my view. Yeah. So it had to be what Steve brought back and the lads brought back from Germany, 3-1. Seemed to be a great option, because it gives better capacity, more choices for the fans as well as the club. And I've got to say, if I wanted to stand, one of the pleasures of being in the Gallowgate corner when it was jam packed was having somebody pee in your pocket, where you cannot do that with the safe standing.
Well, that's a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, seriously, it part of the singing and the standing is the camaraderie that you get out of being in close contact with your mates and not just bobbing up and down from the seat that was there anyway. So that's your and the club's stuck, isn't it? It's got legally bound since the Taylor report to stop people doing that, and even Liverpool have had to bow to that. The Liverpool Council came close to taking their license away if they didn't behave. I gather they don't behave entirely now, but it's better than it was. At least they give it a go. And the same would apply to us. We're talking about a new stadium, which has to be licensed, and we're giving weapons to people who might not want us to license it by saying, well, they can't manage the ground they've got now. What the hell are they building all this for? So, no, there are all sorts of reasons. But bit of research, get it sorted, get it done right. But again, repeat what the lads say. At the end of the day, whatever change they make, whatever change, somebody's not going to be happy. Somebody's going to have to move. Somebody's going to want to start a Stop Our Seats campaign or do the Save Our Seats campaign or something like that. It's just inevitable in a sporting venue like St James's Park. But one-to-one standing, safe standing, well, waste of money as far as I'm concerned. So let's do it, but let's do it properly. And if we are actually, the opportunity for the new stadium is they could actually get that right as part of the design, hopefully, rather than it have to wait till it was finished and put stuff in afterwards. They could actually build it in, which would be fantastic for those that want to do it, and those that that don't, but. The extra ones that get it, and they get the chance to sit where they want as well. So, but one-to-one standing, waste of money. Let's do it properly. And the opportunity, of course, is the new stadium.
Yeah, absolutely, George. What I would say is, yes, somebody asked there and said that they thought it was to do with Europe. Yeah, the whole idea of having the seat that was locked in place in the German model was because when there was a UEFA game where the ground was being used for a UEFA officiated competition, whether it was a Euro competition or a World Cup, or I think in some instances due to licensing also the European games, you had to have a seat. It was all seater. That was the way UEFA made it. So yes, that's why the seat was there. But when the seat is not being used, it's clipped back and it's locked in place, and it just becomes a standard terrace with a fence in. And what I would also say was that clubs have a wonderful way of shooting themselves in the foot. And it's happening all over the Premier League now. I heard earlier this week, that West Ham, for example, they've decided, well, Tottenham have gone down the line of doing away with concessions. And if you're coming up to 66, then they're taking away your concession. And then after that, there are no more concessions from 2025 season. So they're phasing out concessions all the way. If you're already got a concession ticket, you're all right. West Ham, on the other hand, they're going to keep the concession. But what they're doing is they're creating almost a concession stand or a concession section, whereby people who reach a certain age are given the option to move, and not lower down where it's easier to get in, but higher up. And
Christ,
anyone who's been to West Ham,
I'd be on the bloody roof then.
Level 6. So
I'd be on the roof.
Yeah, so they're going to move. They're moving you up, so it's even more difficult to get to your seat. But the benefit is that the payoff for making it more difficult is you're going to be still a concession. If you wish to remain on the
tartan blanket stand.
Exactly. If you wish to remain on the lower tier where you currently are, then you have to pay the full price. Your concession option goes. So you're gonna reach a point when you get a certain age to go, do I go upstairs?
Will it have a clip?
All sorts of connotations, doesn't it?
Will it have a clip on the seat for me walking stick?
Yeah, can you imagine getting a letter from the club? You're now 65. Do you want to go upstairs? That's like easier.
The St. Peter's suite.
That's it. Yeah, in the clouds.
Oh, I love it.
Christ. It's only a matter of time, lads. It's only a matter of time.
It is in my case.
Lots of comments coming. The standing section should just have a bench all the way along, so if it's needed, it can be used, but no good one-to-one. Liam says, Warriors season tickets in option 3 will be moved up into a lesser band seat to allow more expensive and corporate to get better view seats we've always had. Yeah, that is a great shout, mate. That is definitely what I
going to happen. Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, big, some big points as well. Anthony, good evening, says, excellent show, lads. Great informative info and banter. Been here from the start and still get the passion going, even without a match at the weekend. Thank you very much. And Mark says, I feel so grateful I lived to witness the old Gallowgate scoreboard end and Gallowgate corner. The stuff that went on in there we'll never see again. There'd be more banning orders than ever. You know what, Mark? It's why I've started posting a bit of the old stuff again on the channel, and I know a lot of people like it. And it's not monetized, so there's no adverts. And obviously I don't have the copyright to it, but I just bung them up there. And it's the ever-changing face of Steve Wraith on some of these interviews that I laugh at. Like, it's just weird. I mean, I've always had the same haircut, lads. Well, when I was 16, 17, but the rest.
There's a one in the early 60s, Steve, if you remember, when I did Those Were the Days, where I had photographs of half a dozen of the mooning on top of them concrete pedestals or the stands in the Gallowgate corner, and the mooning the ground, standing on top of there.
Yeah. Some great recollections that we've had over the course of time. Lots of comments coming in. There was something that was sent to us. It was a question for George. Where is it? Here it is. Hi, Steve. I've got a question for George. This is from Posey Street Henderson, who lives in Greece, who's in the chat tonight. So
wow.
Good time to ask the question. He says, when I was appointed head groundsman by Bill McGarry in 1984, I believe I was the first person to make the centre and penalty spots as polo mints with the whitener. Now, have I inadvertently actually enlarged the spots, given that players may now overhang the white lines before being given out? Does George remember any such thing during his time as a player? And should the spots be reinstated as was? Thanks, mate. Peter Henderson.
Well, I can tell you now, from my day, that this business about the ball overhanging the white spot or the white line, well, you'd just got kicked in the touch for that. You know, they wouldn't, referees in those days wouldn't have put up a tripe like that. Goodness gracious. How weird. When I watch the linesmen now and the players pushing it to the absolute limit, it just says something about football for me and about professional footballers, that they'll pinch an inch for that to sell their soul just to get that extra inch. And for what? You know, does it really make it? If they can demonstrate to me that making that inch further forward or further back makes that much of a difference, then okay. But no, I mean, no. But he's right in the sense that the only thing that I remember are real white spots and nothing more. And did he say he lived in Greece?
Yeah,
Steve. Yeah. Oh, nice one.
Yeah, we've got people all over the world who tune in.
Well, for a personal reason, I'd like to know where that is.
That was a great point by David Veach, though, there, Steve, that you put up just earlier there. You know, before we get to the point of the development of this new ground, they've got to have proper consultation, not the sort of consultation that's been going on over the last sort of 5 to 6 months, where fan groups have just been ignored. There's got to be proper consultation where it's all taken on board and it's all looked at properly. There's no point in them going ahead and producing a ground and everybody ended up in the situation like West Ham ended up in, where it's just a farce and everybody hates the ground and everybody hates the development. So that if the club's got any sense, then they should be starting dialogues now, not just should we move, but what do we want inside? What is it going to be like? What sort of facilities? Every aspect needs to be looked at in its entirety. It's no good just having faceless bureaucrats, for want of a better word, making decisions on what the ground will be like. Because it's the customer at the end of the day that should have a say. Because we've seen it time and time again where mistakes are made, things are put in and then they never change, and then we all hate it.
Steve, I wish I had your confidence, because you know what will happen? They'll have a fans advisory group for the new ground. And how will they select that? They'll do it the same way as they did the other fans advisory group. And real fans won't even get a bloody say.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be a shoe-in, lads. Don't worry about that.
You will.
Anyway,
silence there, Steve.
Yeah, that was comedy good, lads. I'm laughing at Mark Byers. The reason I keep smirking is Mark Byers is going off into some kind of time warp back into the 80s. And I mean, I love the fact I love the fact, by the way, this is Mark Byers' views, not mine. The program does not take any credit for any of these things that he's put. He says, oh, yeah, great old days, the 80s, the old Harry Roberts chant, knocking a copper's hat off. And then he's put, oh, yeah, remember when the female admin and turnstile staff from the East Stand used to walk past? The Gallowgate on the cinder track mid-game were kindly asked to get their you-know-what's out for the lads. Oh, I remember some of them obliging. So as I say, none of that was me saying that. That was Mark Byers in the chat. But yeah, Mark, I do remember those days. I do remember them 100%.
Mark Nostalgia Byers.
Mark Nostalgia Byers, yeah. Remembering all the great things that you can't mention these days is what he's clearly going on about. Any Maldini update, fellas? I've not heard a thing. Have you heard anything, Mitch?
I know he's been in for a second round of talks.
Okay. Right. Well, that's interesting.
He's definitely been in subsequent to the first time that he was here. And he's very serious and very keen.
Yeah.
And I think he ticks a lot of the boxes for PIF. I think going forward though as well, I think he would be, to attract the right kind of player, having him in place, I think would make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
A lot of it depends on the Ashworth situation at Man United. I don't think anything's going to happen before that's resolved. That's the sort of real problem.
We made it very clear to the tightest billionaire in the world, yes, even tighter than Mike Ashley, pay the money, you can have your man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Maldini would be an interesting choice, wouldn't he, Steve? I would love to have seen him play in a black and white shirt, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Would we not? I mean, dear me, the guy could play anywhere. I tell you what, even if we just brought him in as a defensive cover, although, hang on, we've done all right recently, a couple of clean sheets, but defensive coach, he could give us some advice there as well. But yeah, I mean, an outstanding footballer, someone well respected in the game. I think it's an example of the club going international, isn't it? It's something that we've, in some instances, railed against. In other instances, we're very, very keen to do. We've got sections of fans who rail against the whole internationalization of the football club. And we've got other ones who see it as the only way for the club to grow. But this is a way of getting our name out there and having someone with a massive international standing in the game, well respected, and having him involved in the football club. And I think we've seen it with other clubs in the past, usually European clubs where they bring ex players in, players that have got the kudos, players that have got the intellect. I'm not sure what Maldini's English is like. I've never heard him speak English, I must admit. But having said that, it's let's face it, language is not a problem these days. Although we tend to struggle sometimes when we go abroad, but for some reason, foreign players seem to be able to come over and pick the language up straight away. Bruno being a perfect example, and Joe Linton. And no doubt by the time he's had 10 months off, Tonali will come back speaking with an amazing Geordie accent as well.
The thing I like about Maldini is that he's a great thinker and well thought of as someone who can talk about football and things wider than football. He's also apparently a bit of an intellectual, so I'd be very surprised if his English wasn't spot on. And somebody said, I think it was David Veitch said, get into the better Italian players. A name like Maldini gets you into international players, not just Italian players, because they love them in South America, not just in Italy. They love them in Europe. So, yeah, that really is Newcastle United going international and making Ashworth look like second best, third best, fourth best. Maldini would be fantastic. That really would be a signing.
Yeah, definitely would be. Lots of comments coming in. I will try to get through as many, and there is a couple of topics I know a lot of people want to discuss. And the fact that there's no match this weekend really does give us the opportunity to probably open up on a couple of them. I think we've got time to probably get in Alan Thompson's 2 questions that he asked a little bit earlier on. First of all, Mitch, he said, according to Arsenal fans, Isaac's going to Arsenal. As soon as they come calling, he'll come, as we're in massive trouble with PSR rule. What's your thoughts on that? And his second question was, lads, Nottingham Forest have been given a 24% price hike in season ticket prices. I could see this happening at Newcastle, especially if we get a new stadium built. What's your thoughts on that? So 2 questions from Alan. You're on mute, mate. You're on mute.
First question, simple answer, bollocks. It's that simple. Yeah. Arsenal are living, and their fans are living in a little dream world where they think they can just trot up and chuck some money on the table. Yeah, there's a Newcastle United that used to exist like that. If you want him now, the way he's playing and the way he's scoring goals, you are going to have to pay in excess of £150 million up front. For me, if you want to work out how that works in the game right now, they do not have the buying power to do that. Simple as that. And nor do I think he wants to go. I think we've got a core of players who are very happy together at Newcastle United. So you live your little arrogant ways, driven by your Lego-headed manager who's got his own little arrogant ways, and live in your little bubble, because we're going to burst it for you. Secondly, price rise is interesting. I do see that the price rise that they've done for next season is a dipping the toe in the water about how much we can flex this. The price rise I'm more bothered about is the one after. If you want my perspective from our club, but that's also why we have to come to a decision about what we're going to do capacity-wise as quickly as possible, because what we're going to see is an easing out of the ordinary fan for corporate tickets and corporate sections, because that's where the real money is, and no amount of price hikes will do that. Nottingham Forest have basically, whoever did their sums for their PSR calculation, one shot was shit. He's got it badly wrong, and he's screwed it up, and now they're trying to have to make everything back in different ways that they possibly can, and one of them is out of the fan base. But you've also got to factor in they've been playing in the Championship for God knows how many years. They've had a much lower season ticket value, and then they're stepping up to the Premiership, where you compare the season ticket values to clubs around you and say, hang on a minute, they're paying 38 quid a game and our lot are paying 29 quid a game. That needs to go up. So it's very easy to make a 24% rise and still be cheaper than your next nearest rival, because that's the way the whole thing's gone. This is very, very difficult. People use stats to make their own point. Well, it's a 24% rise, but how much are they paying per game? And is it still less than one of their local rivals? And if the answer is yes, then what they're doing is they're bringing themselves to, they're normalising themselves. On the back of a PSR decision which was made, where effectively they got an accounting period wrong and put a wrong transfer in the wrong accounting period. And so if they can make that small deficit up from levying the fans a little bit more, I can see why they want to do it. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. We all know there's studies now out there that match day income has become such a small percentage of sustainability rules that many clubs could allow fans to come in for free if they wanted, and it wouldn't really hit the PSR that much. Yeah. It's not the days when every penny taken over the turnstile made a difference. I laughed when you showed that picture of the old turnstiles at the Gallowgate end, with the men £2.50 and the boys £1.50. My mate Frecky, who my dad knows very well, got in for God knows how many years longer at £1.50 by paying in a combination of 5 pences, 2 pences, and 10 pences, and they couldn't be asked to count it, so they just flicked the bloody thing in. Bag. Yeah. They couldn't be asked to count it, so anyway, you know, and we never failed to amaze how long he played that ruse for. Probably for about 2 years longer than he should have. And that was at a time when every bloody penny over the turnstile did bloody count. But, you know, it's a very different atmosphere now. So you can use stats to make certain points whichever way you want. But ultimately, whenever clubs are in trouble, Who did they come to? Us mugs.
Correct.
Yeah. Steve, the first question was about Alexander Isaak. Second question about price rises. Isaak first.
Isaac's going nowhere. We know that. Arsenal are deluded. I mean, dear me, that kid must be on Fantasy Island if he thinks that's what's going to happen. The Arsenal fans are like you say, Mitch has said, living in a dream world. And they're convinced that we've got this massive FFP problem, which we don't. It's all London press, London clubs, the top six, them desperate to see their clubs basically take every bit of talent from anyone who's potentially in competition with them. That's what it's all about these days. And would he really want to go to somewhere that's just been knocked out of the Champions League, has just lost the league again through bottling it? The eternal bottlers of Highbury. No, he's quite happy where he is. It's obvious that the way that the football, the way that our club's developing, the way it's developing on the pitch, the relationship he seems to have with the squad, the way he's playing, he's not playing as though he wants to go away for a start, is he? He's playing because he knows that there's something to fight for the rest of this season and for the next season, and he wants to be in a black and white shirt. That's all the feeling that comes over from me. And Mitch is spot on about Nottingham Forest. Prices have come from such a low base, and I think that the figure that's actually going to be brought in from that 24% price rise, that's averaging out, was only going to bring in something like 2 or 3 million quid. So it's not in the massive realm of things anything that's going to solve any of their FFP problems. And Mitch is absolutely spot on. The problem that they had was that they refused to sell Brennan Johnson to Tottenham before June because the price that had been offered was 40 million, and it was the same price that was come from a foreign club for 40 million. And they valued him at higher. They ended up settling for 47.5 million 3 months later, and that took them in. And their argument is always going to be, why should we be forced by an FFP rule when you are dictating us that we couldn't have the same figures on FFP as everybody else in the league because we'd only just come up from the Championship. So we were being penalised on that end, and we were penalised on the other end because you were then forcing us to sell players. And that was their argument. And they ended up selling the player anyway. They got what they wanted. They got the extra money, and now they're being penalised because their player wasn't sold to a club somewhere else in the league, higher up in the league than them. Tottenham Hotspur, one of the top six. They didn't abide by the price that was wanted at that particular time, and Tottenham had to pay the premium. That's the way that the league is being running at the moment. It's the power. We've seen the power of the top six. We've seen the power of the Premier League. We've seen the way they treat everybody else with contempt. We've seen the contempt that's been shown continuously this week and last week and the week before and the week before that, the week before that. The way that the Premier League has acted, the way that Masters has acted, the fact that he can stand up in Parliament and say, it's in front of a select committee and say, no, we'll not lobby anything to do with the regulator, and then 3 weeks later, there he is in the Houses of Parliament, in the House of Lords, whining and dining people. That's what other clubs are up against. He's being told what to do by the top six. He's been given a mandate, and at the same time, those who are potentially going to slip out the league are being treated abysmally. And regardless of what you might think of Tottenham, for example, of Everton, for example, when you do start to delve into the situation that they've found themselves in, the situation that Nottingham Forest have found themselves in, the situation that Sheffield United are going to be in when they get relegated, and the situation that Leicester are in if they come up. Leeds United sitting on the brink here as well. All of these are examples where it's the organisation that's letting fans down. The clubs might be letting them down in terms of not abiding by the rules, but the rules are there strictly to safeguard the very clubs that are penalising financially and kicking them in the teeth with. It's the whole. every time you hear anything that's going on in the Premier League, anything that involves any of the executives in the Premier League, or anything that involves the rules and regulations and such like, it drives someone like me more and more towards the regulator when I was against the regulator, because I'm thinking these people need stamped on, these people need strung up, you know, the way that we're being treated, the way that it all started from like big picture, and then the European Super League and the contempt, and then watching UEFA and the way that they've gone on, and now FIFA bringing in another competition. And we're losing out on replays in the FA Cup because more and more competition is going to affect and impact the clubs higher up. It's absolutely scandalous. And then to top it off, you've got a guy like Infantino who comes in at the head of FIFA, and he turns around and he says, "I'm here to clean it all up. I'm going to get rid of all that corruption that was there in the past." And now he's bringing in rules that say he should. And the rule was that he's only allowed to have two, to be there for two sections, two lots of standing. And now he's changed the laws, and he's been voted in for a third term. This is what these people are like. They're duplicitous in the way that they go on, and it's the same at the very top of the Premier League as well. An absolute scandal.
George, first of all, Isaak going nowhere.
Absolutely not. No. And somebody posed the question: was he good before he came, or have we made him better? The answer is I would refer you to a minor centre forward called Ibrahimovic, who one of the best centre forwards in the world. And he waxed lyrical about Isaak before he put pen to paper, saying what a fantastic young player he was, going to be better than me, he said. Imagine, better than Ibrahimovic. My God, what a player. So I'm sure that in terms of his fitness regime and that sort of thing, Eddie Howe's done the things he does with all the players. But the basic skill in that lad is just to be a joy to behold. You know, his touch, his pace. I mean, Ferdinand the other night said he didn't think he had enough pace. For God's sake, what was he drinking? I mean, he could give Ferdinand 20-odd start in his day. But never mind. No, he's going nowhere. Arsenal fans, like the others in the league, are licking our wounds a little bit, because them little so-and-so's in the northeast, you know, they allowed a director to buy a £37 million share, and that's not fair. It's only not fair because they haven't got a director that could bloody do that. None of them. So, you know, it just, they bite a bit. And I think our lot are playing very canny with this until it gets to the stage where they've had enough. And I think we'll see it in the competition court. I can't see how they can avoid it. I mean, we're talking about the top six, and Everton and Nottingham Forest and Leicester and Leeds and Sheffield down at the bottom. The top six have more debt than the other 14 put together by a factor of 2 or 3.
Yep.
And does that not mean anything? Does that matter? It should when you're adding the sums up. So yeah,
you've got to remember those regulations were following the lead of UEFA when they wanted to protect Real Madrid and Barcelona, who were in exactly the same position.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to do, to remove the actual amount of debt. And the phrase they used was ability to service the debt. Yeah. And that's why when you hear talk about Barcelona, they've pulled another economic lever, it's bullshit.
So anyway, Isaac's going nowhere. The Arsenal fans are dreaming if they think that's going to happen. What was the other bit of the question? Sorry, Steve.
Just season ticket prices, George.
Inevitable. Look, if you want a guide, you've already had a guide. Go back on your computer and look at all those questionnaires we've got, those emails asking you, if we did this, would you pay for that? How much would you pay for this? And how much? What the hell do you think all that was about? Yeah. If we put seats down beside the tunnel where the players come out, how much would you pay for a seat there?
$6,000 at Chelsea.
Well, you know, I mean, it everything about it. Now, you know, I keep saying I really applaud the takeover, but the bit I get nervous about is A, when I see what they have or haven't done for fans, and B, all the stuff, magic corporate videos that I've seen are all talking about prawn sandwich supporters, not pork pie supporter like me. You know, it's that's where it's headed. The best thing about the new stadium, the bigger it gets, well, that makes room for pork pies and prawn sandwiches, if you like. But the net result is that yeah, they'll go up. I think our club's been pretty fair with prices so far, and long may it continue. But I have me doubts. I have me doubts.
Yeah, Keith Patterson's in the chat. Good evening, Keith. Me and Keith bumped into each other at the last home game. And for those of you who have been asking, can we get Keith back on? Can we get Keith back on? I did speak to him. We are going to have a one-off show in the next few weeks when Keith can give us a little bit of time. He's going to pop onto the Amigos and we'll have him on, and he'll be able to give you some answers and an insight into what his views are on what is going on with the cartel, as usual. But we are halfway through the show, and as always, we need to pay respect to our sponsors with the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria, their website mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel, and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today. And don't forget the end of season 2, 20th of July, 5 o'clock till late, 20th of July, 2024. Supermatt and Gibbo on stage, Ask George on stage, and the Long Sands in aid of Dementia Matters. Tickets are a tenner, nufcmatters.com, newcastlelegends.com. Going to be a lot of us there as well. It's going to be a cracking night, that, like, so looking forward to that. Okay, as always, plenty to get through, and we're going to have a little bit of tune lookalike. Yeah, got a few of these to get through. Some of them are not quite lookalikes. Like this one, I really miss Prince so much I drew a moustache on Rihanna. So I guess it's a little bit.
Not a bad shout, actually.
It's not. Mike Ashley and the big controller from Thomas the Tank Engine. That's from Tom Dixon, and another one from Tom Ronaldinho and Trisha Goddard. Poor Trisha. She's better looking than that, mate. And Jermaine Jennings and Matthew Horn. I've never really seen that one until you sent that, but that's, yeah, they've got a similar kind of face. Similar kind of face. We seem to be getting a few of these now, don't we? Look at this image with your eyes almost closed, and you will see John Wick. Yeah. So that's quite good.
Yeah.
Quite good. Yeah. And this one, same again. People very clever with Photoshop. Albert's back with a vengeance, and he's starting to create a trend again, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Guess who he says?
No idea.
Not a clue.
No idea. Stephen Kennedy says, for God's sake, Mr. Hasty, give up time travel.
Yeah.
Tom Baker, that's classic. And this one, I love this from Dougie Morris. Granny Smith.
That's good, that. Very clever.
And we have this one from Night Waves. There's an alternative reality where everyone's a dog, he says, and thousands of dogs tune in every Friday night to watch the Amigos. Says George, Steve, Mitch, and Steve. I love it. I look quite cute there. I'm quite happy with that one. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Thanks for that, mate. Stephen Taylor unveiled as a football manager. Al Kabila, looking like he late one from Dedi Al Ramayan. Thank you for that.
Good.
And Erling Haaland looking like with glasses on. I think Kevin Kennedy's going to be over the moon with that. Like, I don't think Erling Haaland's going to be too happy. Definitely got a police theme this week. Gordon Drysdale. Is Steve Wraith working for the police now? Hope he didn't get arrested after taking that outside the strawberry, Gordon. And this one, very good. Although I'm sure Phil Mitchell's, the actor who plays Phil Mitchell, didn't have that hair when that photo was taken. I have a feeling that was superimposed on there.
That's a clever bit of computer work, that.
It is. Not so clever. Not so clever as this either from Albert. Thank you, Albert.
God, yeah, me.
There it is. You can see either side of my head, mate. Yeah, very good. Nothing wrong with Albert's eyes. And this one, the late great Steve Wright and Steven Seagal.
Yeah. Very good, that.
Yeah, very good. The winner this week, though, was this one. Tune lookalike David Bowie as Tilda Swinton and Tilda as David.
Ooh. Bloody hell.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, me.
Stephen, I like that, mate. Very good.
I think the word of the week is androgyny.
Yes, I think you're right, mate. Okay, if you've got lookalikes, join our Facebook group, join the page, like the page, join the group, or send them to us on X and we'll feature them on the show. Now, I have mentioned the auction which is ongoing. I've put the link into our chat tonight. So first of all, jump on that. You've got a couple of days to do it. Have a look and see what you fancy, and maybe put a bid in. Edward did just that, and basically, Edward's stepson was absolutely delighted, and he sent in a picture. So here we go. The photos arrived today, Steve. Thank you so much. It's great. You've made my stepson a happy boy. He was born on the 31st of October, 2010, which is the print that they won in the auction was Kevin Nolan kissing the ball after the hat-trick against the Mackhams. You can see why he had to have it. He is still in shock at getting it. Thanks once again. Keep up the excellent work on the shows. Regards, Edward. Thank you, Edward.
Great.
Big shout out to your stepson as well. Always pleased to see people happy when they get something like that. Okay, still lots of stuff to get through. Keith says, "What a time to tune in!" and puts 3 dog emojis. Steve,
typical.
And I'm sorry, Albert will be teeing up plenty of great dogs if I can get on next Friday to visit you all. Westies are the best, he says, Steve.
The irony being the kid's the only one that owns a dog.
Michael J says, regarding the coffin pub that we mentioned earlier, I once got hammered in Tyne, crossed the bridge and had a late one on in the coffin. Hammered, went to the loo the wrong way, ended up upstairs and found a load of mattresses and crashed. That's brilliant. And earlier, I didn't want to stop Steve in his pomp earlier on, but even you must have thought, oh my God, I should start singing the Wombles song. You started going on about
somebody mentioned it.
Steve was in his full flow, mentioned underground and overground, and Simon goes, did anyone else think of the Wombles when Steve Hayes was talking about underground?
Yes.
That's the one song. Got another song in.
That's it. I nearly sang I nearly sang Womble and Free. There we go. But there we go. Okay, FA Cup, lads. FA Cup. It would be remiss of us not to discuss this. Do the panel think it's a good idea for the FA Cup replays being stopped by the cartel? I mean the Premier League. I just thought this was arrogant, Mitch. I thought it was really arrogant. And
not arrogant. I'm going to tell you what this is.
Yeah.
It's the final bending of the knee of the FA to the Premier League to hand over the management of football in England to the Premier League, and the FA are now a minor player.
Yeah.
It's their last act of fealty to the Premier League. They said they would never take the FA Cup away from the people, and then last year put it behind a paywall where you can only watch if you subscribe to a channel. Now, they've allowed the Premier League to dictate everything. No replays in rounds 1 and 2. What's that got to do with the Premier League? We don't come in until round 3. And yet, you've now taken that away. Why are you allowing that to be taken away? If you talk to non-league and lower league teams, particularly post-COVID, when everybody, to a man, woman and boy, has been in financial distress in football, the value of a replay at Old Trafford, at St James's Park, even at the bloody stadium is shite to some teams, is the difference between being able to pay the wages for the next 2 seasons or not. So why have you taken that away from rounds 1 and 2 when there's no Premier League teams involved in that? Is that what the set a level playing field? Well, is that the same level playing field that says if you're playing at a ground which has VAR week in, week out, you got VAR, and if you're not playing at a ground that has VAR, then tough shit? That's bullshit. They've already skewed the competition once, massively. This now just blows it out the water. I can't see who gets any kind of advantage out of no replays in round 1 and 2. Yes, if you want to bring it in for round 3 when the Premier League clubs get involved, if that's really, really, really what you want. But that takes away part of the essence of the FA Cup at its very core. And I think us as Newcastle United fans, because of the affinity we have with the FA Cup as a club, it probably, we perceive it differently perhaps to some clubs. Or maybe we're just not spoiled brats. The FA Cup should have a degree of reverence. It was, and I'm going to use the past tense, a cup competition revered around the world. What they are turning it into is just another competition. And why have the FA bent the knee to the Premier League? What's going on there? What are the wheels within wheels? How does the Football League feel about this? Having things taken away from their members? Are they that desperate for the money filtering down from the Premier League that they will keep their mouth shut and suck hoop and just take whatever comes their way? Are the football authorities in the Premier in England, just a big human centipede with the Premier League at the front and everybody else with the shit rolling downhill? Is that really where we're at? What they've done is reinforce any argument that says an independent football regulator will look after this better than you will. They've not pushed that away. They've brought that closer. And everybody's brought that closer. And you're all to blame. The Premier League, the FA, the AFL, all of you. The FA Cup is a competition recognised worldwide as a cup that people get excited about. And you know what? I didn't really probably understand that fully until I became expat myself. And in Dubai is an interesting place. You meet people not just from West, but from East as well. And you talk to people who, not necessarily Newcastle fans, but they're football fans. From China, from Japan, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Australia, from New Zealand, from South Africa. Worldwide. And a lot of them love the FA Cup more than they love the Premier League. And they've just sold it. Just utterly sold out. They've gone to the Premier League and bended the knee. And now, for me, the FA are a body with no credibility, no weight. To call them a paper tiger would actually be an insult to tigers. They've just given it all away. Brilliant. I think we're witnessing the death of something in football that we may not understand the depth of for a couple of years. And that makes me very sad.
Steve?
The FA Cup's about romance and it's about jeopardy. And that romance and that jeopardy has had the rug pulled under it to a certain extent by the decision not to have the replays. Not that there's many replays happen these days, but the very fact that you could get a home draw in the third round against a big club, and then you could take them back to their ground. You could go back. You could have a day out at Old Trafford. You could have a day at St James's Park, or even a day at the Stadium of Light, in a replay in an evening under the lights, and still have a chance. And a big thing for those lower league players as well to get the chance to play. All that's been taken away. The financial aspect of it's been taken away with some strange promise with no substance behind it that there's going to be more money, because they haven't said how much more money there's going to be from the TV. They haven't said how many more of the first and second round games are going to be live on TV, because apparently that's what's going to happen. That's the carrot that they're now waving, or the flag that they're now waving at the lower leagues, and they're now waving at the Division 1 and Division 2 and the Northern League. Interesting on the National League, rather. Interesting that the National League went in with the Premier League on this, but there's a power play occurring, because they all think they can now be Wrexham. They all think that if they get some sort of like showing on TV, that some foreign buyer will come in and go, you know what, look at that club, they were fantastic in the FA Cup, and we can
Wrexham model.
what Wrexham have done with an American owner, or a TV star, or a film star, or some guy like Stephen Taylor's fallen for, with some guys in Dubai who are going to, create a football club out of nowhere.
They're crowdfunding a football club, let's be honest.
Exactly.
But
what I think we're really seeing is a power play. I think we're seeing a power play before the regulator comes in. I think what the Premier League have done, especially in the same week as they've been lobbying, I think obviously this decision has been on the cards for probably since the start of the season, and there'll have been negotiations happening with the FA and the Premier League. To what extent the EFL have been sidetracked or stepped over, or haven't been switched on enough to realise what was happening, I don't know. But where we are now is that it's a huge bargaining chip now for the Premier League. because they're gonna say we've got the FA and we're back. I'm surprised the Premier League haven't bought the FA's golden share as well, to be perfectly honest, because there's always been that hindrance of the golden share that allowed the FA to be in total control. I'm surprised that the Premier League haven't bought the FA in its entirety.
How do we know that hasn't happened, Steve?
Well, exactly. We don't, do we? Is that what's
this behaviour would suggest that may have already happened?
Exactly. That could be lingering there in the background, in the ether of that space that's been created. But now we've got the situation that the Premier League will be going, you know what? We've now got the FA behind us. We're a little bit stronger in the negotiations with the AFL. The AFL are sitting there going, oh, I don't like this. We can't have this. What we're going to do about it, without actually having any coherent thought of what they can do. And I think it's a bargaining chip. And I think it's designed to get all of the ducks in a row before the regulator comes in. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of the payoffs is that the Premier League, if they, which they ultimately will, win this argument with the financial situation, and they'll say, you know what, AFL, you've got to toe the line, and you've got to lobby with us, and you've got to get rid of the regulator, or you've got to work with us to basically absorb and shrink the power of the regulator to the point where the regulator has absolutely no control. They're already railing on the fact that they're going to have to pay, and that's another thing that the Premier League has told the AFL clubs and sent a panic through the rest of football with, by saying, you know what, there's a bill coming for the regulator. It's £100 million apparently. Who's going to pay for that? At the moment, they're saying it will be paid for, according to government, by the Premier League. But the Premier League are going to argue, we're not going to pay for something we don't want. And what we'll do is we want it to filter down, and you're all going to be worse off. We're all going to be worse off because we're all going to be paying for the regulator because the government said they're not going to pay for it. So there's all sorts of shadowy games being played, and there's no question about that. And I think this is just one of them. But the whole nit and grit is that the Premier League have taken control of the FA Cup now, done away with the replays. Whether it's like it's like we're looking at it now from the romantic side, but is that the real argument? Is the real argument that's going to happen on the real fight? Is it about the replays, or is it about something greater in football? And I think Mitch is right. It's about something greater that it's coming riding over the hill. You know, it's like that famous song, isn't it? What's that coming over the hill? But we don't know what it is that's coming over that hill.
Yeah. And it's coming. It's going to get you wherever you are.
Yeah.
This is me coming into football, isn't it? My first match. First match, 1945.
Yep.
Newcastle United versus Barnsley. First leg, third round of the FA Cup. First leg, notice what I said. Somebody had the bright idea to give the clubs more money by having two legs. Didn't think it out, did they? Because when they got the replays, they said, well, is the replay over two legs? And they didn't see the season out with two games, did they? By the time we got the sixth round, they were back to one game. And some of the positive things, though, that have happened by the ancients was this business about Premier League clubs coming in third round. That wasn't done for a negative reason. It was done for a positive reason, to allow more little clubs get involved in the tournament. So they got the chance to share in the magic. Keith used that in his strap, the magic of the FA Cup. And it's always been the magic of the FA Cup. Come on, we all see the excitement around the town when we're getting ready for the third round draw and all that sort of thing, because it's the FA Cup. That they've dared to alter it is more than sad, because Neil's right. We may be losing something we'll regret in the years to come, because it was the magic. And the other thing is the even playing field, is VAR things ridiculous as well. The magic is that when it starts, everybody, whether you're playing on a park pitch down at Whitley Bay or whether you're playing on St James's Park, the rules are the same. The rules are the same. And who couldn't forget the magic of Blythe Spartans run? Remember when they had all those replays with Wrexham, and filled St James's Park for the last one because everybody was so excited about it all. Well, isn't that what football's supposed to be about? Getting excited. That taking all the opportunity of that away. And I'm ready to believe that for the next 10 years after that run, Blythe had a very healthy bank balance, not for 2 years, but for about 10 years, because they played all those replays. So, it takes all that away from football fans particularly. And don't the supporters of Maidstone United have the right to be as excited as the supporters of Manchester United when the FA Cup's around? Of course they do. That's the whole point of the FA Cup, and it's quite tragic that it's been sneaked through by these people in another means of giving more power to the Premier League. The FA should have their head in their hands. They're supposed to be the rulers of football, not just in the UK but of the world, and they've abdicated their responsibilities, in my view, with doing this, because it's just tragic. It's not just about tradition; it's more than that. It's what goes with it: the excitement, the magic, the feeling, and it gives so many people so much joy. And no wonder the little clubs are upset about it.
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait as well to see whether what the devil is in the detail, and if the devil in the details say that FA Cups replays are retrospective, I'll be delighted if it means that we'll never ever see those Hereford goals again. By the way,
no.
Jason Wilcock's been appointed at Manchester United anyway, so that's an interesting thing just amongst what we're talking about. Go on, Mitch, you were going to make a point before I go to the tweets of the week.
No, just like you were saying before, for me, the FA Cup went when they introduced this thing about VAR, if it's at the ground or not.
Yeah.
It's like Percy Main getting through the third round of the Cup. Yeah. And then they got knocked out by a blatantly offside goal that wasn't picked up. But because they don't have VAR, they go out. And if it was Newcastle United and VAR was there, and they would have gone through.
Yeah, crazy.
The worst of that is bollocks. At the end of the day, it's not a level playing field. It's not the same rules being applied in the same games. That was always the beauty of the FA Cup. 11 against 11, a referee, 2 linesmen, same rules. We apply it equally, and that's what happens. And that's why we get fucking sick of seeing Ronnie Radford there. Yeah. And now it's gone beyond that. It's a farce.
It is. It's completely.
Yeah, they're only interested in England, though, aren't they? Their sole purpose of raising money and whatever they bring in is purely to look after the England setup.
Yeah.
All the way through. St George's Park, which was probably a huge, big sort of millstone around the FA's neck, as Wembley was, and that's why the FA will just kowtow to anything, because they've got absolutely no gumption. They've got no say or sway in anything to do with football anymore.
In my 30 years as a magistrate, I only had to deal with football hooligans rioting once. And that was from Appleby Park at No Shields.
Classic. Okay, time for a little bit of tweet of the week. By God, we're being inundated this week. Okay, in no particular order, spring is here. I'm so excited, I wet my plants. Let's get open. Thank you. Thanks for that one, Gary. And I love this one, Gary, as well. The sorting tiramisu.
Brilliant. Clever.
And good one from Gary as well. Here's Rick Catsley. Always going to wake you up. Always going to knock stuff down. Always going to run around at 2:30. Always going to dislike hugs. Always going to barf on rugs. Always going to watch you go to the bathroom. Very good. Unrehearsed, lads. I know I've got the vocal tones. I think I'll open this kitchen drawer. potato masher.
Yes, all been there.
All been there. Not everyone will get this, says Gary.
Oh, well.
Steve,
Get stuck in the middle, though.
Yes,
Steve,
exactly.
Steve.
Exactly. Ordered this badge from my girlfriend, which was made from
Brilliant.
my proposal photo. Didn't quite go as expected.
Oh.
And you must be this itty bitty to climb up this water spout. Yeah, Gary, Gary's been on fine form this week. Thank you, and thanks to Dougie for this one. Finally found the square root.
Wow.
Clever, Dougie.
And if I ever win the lottery, I won't tell anybody, but there will be signs.
Christ.
It started to make teenager mannequins. I think any parent can understand that look. And this one's great from Stephen. Got a cat, needs a name. Serious suggestions only.
Dick.
Here's some iron brew, lads.
Ah,
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
want my Stewie that.
And I did show this to her indoors, and she did laugh, so it's okay to put this one on. How women exaggerate what happens to them when men leave the toilet seat up. This is the next one from NUFC Geordie, tweet of the week, just for you. He says, Radio Brett, I'm a crap. I'm a weirdo. What am I doing here? I do not belong here. Very good. Not my favourite song to sing, like, but I give it my best shot. And Julie, when she gets back in from a night out, I'm sure she'll have enjoyed that when she watches it back. How your house is looked at by you, by the buyer, by the bank loan, the insurance evaluator, and by the municipality for rates and taxes.
Yeah.
Very good. And another one from I can't ride a bike anymore, probably just as well. Dismount and wank was the sign on this particular door. This made me chuckle too much. That's a nasty bug you've got there. I don't know. You see, I laughed out loud as that as well. And one for the Star Wars fans. Thank you, Dougie. Difficult to come by these, but I could see it straight away, mate.
Yeah.
Houdini, the Jawa.
Yeah.
The Jawa truck there. And I went to my local coffee shop and asked for a cappuccino. The lady asked, is that to sit in? I said, no, I'm going to drink it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, great one as well. Tattoo of the week, lads. Hey, Pooh, you in there?
Oh, God.
Oh, dear me.
And is this right, Steve? This would be us if I got back all the money I spent on alcohol and stupid stuff. Yes, I think it probably would be, all of us combined. And when you're singing along to Footloose and you have no clue what the lyrics are, Footloose, pet goose, picked a fight with a moose, cheese, stiff breeze, look out there are 10 bees. Brilliant. Thank you. That's 3 songs tonight. Thank you, guys. I was lonely until I glued a cup of coffee onto my car. Now everybody waves at me. And it's great to see Liverpool doing well, isn't it? The bloody wheels are starting to come off the bus, Mr. Klopp.
Yes. Very good.
And Roger Waters, Robert Plant.
Clever.
Another one from Jimmy. MJ Steels. Who broke into the bar and stole our limbo stick? Seriously, how low can you go?
Oh.
And, Gary Scott said, what possibly could go wrong? Nuclear power plant, spider farm. Arachnophobia, mate. Details out. Hotel sold by Chelsea FC for 68 million. The Shed End Hotel is luxury, exclusive, one-room, sustainable, eco-retreat. Rooms available for an 8-year stay. Mate, we're laughing about it. It'll come to that. And he says, try this one, Steve, when you're a bit worse for wear. This is a ship shipping ships. Yeah, we'll keep that for the next time on the red wine, mate. I see what you do. And Spurs tea set for sale, 11 mugs and no cups. And how's that kid doing that swallowed those coins? No change yet.
Oh.
I think someone changed his mind, says Jimmy.
Clever, Jimmy.
Another Star Wars reference. And another one from Jimmy. He says, if you weren't disabled before, you will be after.
Definitely. Crikey, more.
And I mean, how fast was the kid going, says Jimmy. And last few, got a couple of good ones, as I say. Tweet of the week contender, Rock and Goal. Thank you, Mick, for that one.
Yeah.
And tweet of the week for you, Steve, from Jimmy. By drinking 130 bottles of wine, you've saved a bird.
Look at that. That's
excellent. I got sent this, Pippi Longstocking. I don't know why I found that funny, but I did. It's a Star Trek, Star Wars reference. And twerk where Yorkshire folk go Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. Twerk.
Yes.
25 years of marriage, and he never once raised his voice at his wife.
No, Barry didn't.
Customer notice, please don't arrange the candles in an offensive manner, as this could upset customers and other families with small children. And my wife's an angel. You're lucky mine's still alive.
Dear me.
That's quite severe, wasn't it? And
just a bit.
And legend says the husband was waiting in the car for his wife to get ready.
I'll just be a moment.
Yeah. They brought him on in case it goes to pens.
It's clever.
Yeah, Biro. For those of you who can't read that. And I didn't know that Sylvester Stallone is on his third marriage. I guess his first one was Rocky and his second was Rocky 2.
Oh, dear.
And if the monkeys were Scottish, dinna talk shay, dinna see fuck all, but I'm no listening, take your pish. that was sent in for Stu Penman, actually. And Steve Wraith, the man who invented throatlers and sweets, died last week. There was no coffin at the funeral.
Oh, God.
Oh, Gary, man.
This is the Ian Hall. Now do you see why deers have eyes on the side of their head? Bizarre. But yeah, bizarre. And good morning, pupils. Good morning, Miss Iris. You'll never see a cornier joke than that, lads.
Oh, dear me.
And best photo from Aintree last week. Now then, let's put a happy little pat here for our friend Leatherface. I remember him in the day. And I can't believe they didn't hire me. I lost money today on 3 horses called Sunshine, Moonlight and Good Times. I blame it on the bookie. I decided not to sing it because I've made people's ears bleed too much this week. What the predator sees after chasing me for 10 seconds. And the last couple, the musicians on the Titanic, only one survived the tragedy.
There's Keith at the bottom. Brilliant.
Okay, last couple, yeah. This one first. Well, she's looking fab.
Yeah.
And another lollipop related one. The winner this week. That's David.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Apparently, the person who did that, though, says David was arrested. Where's your sense of humor? Come on. Where's your sense of humor? If you've got some tweets of the week to make people's week on the show, then send them to us on our Facebook group or page. Hit the like on the page or join the group. If not, join us on X. You'll find NUFC Toon Talk is NUFC Matters page, or you can send it one of us on X. But that
some
is
useless information, Steve. I happen to know the man that designed the ship that was carrying the ships.
All right, nice.
There we go.
He's now Vice Chancellor of Edinburgh Napier University.
There you go. You learn something every day with George. That is tweet of the week. Go on, Steve. What were you saying?
The postbox one's quite up to date, isn't it? Because they do have a record for arresting people.
Yeah, exactly. A big shout out to Michael J, by the way, who, like Mitch, is in Dubai, and he's safe and well, but watches the show on a regular basis. And he's mentioned the sports director. Let's just talk about that. He's been back in court again against Newcastle, hasn't he? And the court today has denied him permission to do what he wanted to do and appeal the ruling, Mitch. So that's game over for Mike Ashley. But he's got what he wanted out of it, a little bit of publicity.
Yeah. That's all he ever wants at times. At times, that's all he ever wants, to have his name, his company in the news. Job done. He was never, ever, ever really going to win that case, because what he has done in the past, when he stopped, who was the Wigan guy? Dave Whelan. And his company taking stuff. Yeah. So he set his own precedent. It was all about putting his name back in the news and associating with Newcastle United, because Newcastle United is now not a toxic brand because it's got nothing to do with him anymore.
Well, and he's only spending a small fraction of the advertising money he should have been paid for them saying it's at James's Park.
Yeah, Steve. I mean, it's no surprise to hear that the appeal's been chucked out, but that for me was the first thing I thought of, and it took a cop and march at St James's for me to realise what he was up to. It was all about publicity, and that was when I went back into my back catalogue of programmes, magazines, papers, and found the copy of United magazine, which we used to get sent to season ticket holders, which had the 8-page interview with Mike Ashley in, to see whether I could glean anything from it. And what I found in there was that little paragraph which said, "I've bought Newcastle United to promote my sports brand globally." And it was as simple as that.
That's exactly what it was. And we said that from the beginning. And I mean, Ashley, do we use the word vindictive here?
Possibly, yeah.
Or a man with a long memory, who always looks for the final say. And Mitch mentioned Dave Whelan there. I think back in the day with JBB Sports, I think it was Whelan and the other power brokers in the sports world who called Ashley up to meet them, and he was sent back with a flea in his ear. He turned up, and then they told him, "You're in with the big boys now. Then it's the North that runs the football shirts and this type of thing. So go back to the South and just stay in line." And that was when he was trying to sell the shirts underpriced. Remember, he wanted to sell the England shirts for next to nothing, because he was be able to buy them in bulk, and they wanted to keep the price at whatever it was, $29.95 or whatever. And from that moment onwards, he went after them. And I think he brought them all down one by one. Built up an empire of Sports Direct, stacking it high, selling it cheap, but also getting big brands. But he doesn't sell the high end, if you like, Adidas stuff. He sells the lower end of it. But he needs to have the football tops in his stores to bring people in. And now the shirts are like 70 quid, and he'll have wanted to discount them as well, because he'll have wanted to sell more. And we all know what he did with Glasgow Rangers. We all know what he did with us. We all suspect what he did with Castell, and various other deals that he had with Puma, etc. And it's just one of those things that this was probably his last throw of the dice for Newcastle United. It was to keep him relevant, to keep us thinking about him, to keep the Sports Direct name in the frame. But gradually, it's all disappeared. And if we're truly, really, really sort of wanted to delve in, I think that's where the final disposable part of Mike Ashley is now. All the companies that Mike Ashley had under Newcastle United had all got transferred to Amanda, have now all been expunged, or the vast majority of them expunged. We've only kept the names that we wanted. They've got rid of the companies that they didn't want, that they inherited, that were there for whatever reason, with Lee Charnley's name as the director, and as a sole director, whether it was a TV or it was this or that. I think there was 30 odd of them during the takeover part, and gradually they've been looked at, they've been reviewed, and they've realised that we don't need all of these. They've done the housekeeping, and that's sort of like, that's probably the final bit hopefully at Newcastle United, although there's probably one or two skeletons still in the cupboard, have actually opened the doors, clearing out the rubbish and finally throwing it in the skip. There's one or two people up there that I'd still like to see in the skip as well, but that's probably one for another week or another year.
Yeah, go on, George.
Well, it just typifies him because he bought all those companies and instead of same mistake he made with the football club actually, and he didn't enhance them. He run them down to get the maximum out for him. I mean, think of some of the names he bought, not just in football. In boxing, he bought Lonsdale. There isn't a bigger name in sport than Lonsdale for all sports, and it was mostly boxing. But it was quality gear. You know, them beautiful silk shorts, etc. Well, by the time Ashley got them, there were no silk in them at all. They were hardly bloody rayon, never mind silk. And he just made them worse so he could get every penny sucked out of it that he could, and that's his business model, and he thought he could do the same with us. The annoying thing for me is that, well, perhaps it's not an annoying thing, maybe it's a good thing he didn't do it. If he had taken the opportunity to spend a couple of £100 million over the time he was there, instead of ignoring the club, he could have been a hero. He could have been asking for a statue for him, but his tight-fingered little hands wouldn't let it loose, and he just dragged every penny out of it.
Yeah, he only spent the money when he thought it was going to affect him, didn't he? When he thought he was going to lose money on it.
Yeah.
When he had the opportunity to move the club forward and it was going to cost him, he didn't want anything to do with it. But when he thought he was going to lose money on it, he then reacted. That was the way he was. Stack him high, sell him cheap, man.
Well, and you know, every time his name's mentioned, I remember the day, and Neil remember it and all. There used to be 10 of us used to go to St James's Park on a Saturday. There are 2 now, me and Neil. Well, me and Steve Hasty. And what set it off? They loved their fish and chips and their mushy peas. And for tea after the match, they went to get their fish and chips and their mushy peas. And the guy behind the counter said, "You can't have mushy peas. Why not?" Mate Ashley won't buy the plastic containers to put them in. And that was it. Those boys that went to that counter have never been back in St James's Park since. And to my knowledge, not even now have they been back in St James's Park.
To my knowledge, 4 of them have never been back.
No.
Over fucking mushy peas, would you believe?
Yeah.
Crazy, innit? Absolutely crazy. Well, we have come towards the end of the show. It's, as always, on a Friday, we always end up having the same conversation afterwards. God, where did that 2 hours go? But, you know, we just end up, it is just mates having a bit crack. But we will finish with a little joke from Elliot. My friend's making a world record attempt to make the longest queue. We should all get behind him.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's a proper groaner, that. And a few people as well. People going, was that the Wealdstone Raider? Was it the lookalike? Well, it was the Wealdstone Raider who I met last week. This was a lookalike that was suggested by Miggy Smalls. The Wealdstone Raider got to meet Eric Ten Hag. Wow. But he was up for Mark Gillespie's stag do last weekend, and he was sitting near us. And it just happened as I was leaving the ground to get down to the Theatre Royal to go and watch the 39 Steps. He was in front of us, so I managed to get a photograph with him. So, Wealdstone Raider, that's why I was on Tyneside last week. Now, obviously, Newcastle play next Wednesday. I'm not going to get the lads' predictions. People will be going, why haven't you got the predictions? I'm going to do Geordie's here, Geordie's there on Tuesday night, if that's okay with the lads, 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, because Wednesday we'll probably be able to find a way of watching the game some way, shape or form. So I will pre-record the Talk of the Toon on Tuesday and put that out on Wednesday night. But tomorrow, before all of that, you've got a special show with Gibbo, 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I did Malcolm separately this week. I did a pre-recorded interview with Gibbo earlier in the week, so I'm putting that out at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And then me, Mitch and Stu will be back on Sunday night with the professionals at 6 o'clock. So look forward to seeing you then. George, Steve, Mitch, thanks for a great show, lads. Have a good night, whatever you're doing.
Got through a whole show without mentioning Emily. Not good.
Oh, you just blown it. Take care.
Cheers, everyone.